After a brutal betrayal, the Penguin returns to Gotham, determined to reclaim his lost empire. With the city plunged into chaos under the rule of a new enemy, he assembles a loyal crew for one final, ruthless showdown. The balance of power is shifting, and Gotham's true ruler will soon be decided. Love comics? Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new story and stay in the loop with all the action. And now, let's get started. Battered and alone, Oswald Cobblepot sat on a bench by the riverbank, gazing out at the distant lights of Gotham on the opposite shore. The city was aglow, with thousands of windows twinkling like cold stars. The nightlights shimmered on the dark water, while overhead the silent form of Batman's aircraft glided through the sky, patrolling the streets like a dark sentinel. It was as if the city itself was watching Oswald's every move, a silent reminder that he was no longer its master. He had only $20 in his pocket, but there was something far heavier burning inside him, a fierce, unrelenting desire to reclaim the empire that had been taken from him. He knew it wouldn't be easy. He knew the powers now ruling Gotham were far more ruthless and formidable than before, but he couldn't afford to retreat. Oswald was waiting for someone. With every passing minute, the chill of the night seeped deeper under his worn coat. Yet he kept his eyes fixed on the city lights, as if silently conversing with it. Then a young man approached, emerging from the shadows. Without a word, he took Oswald's money and handed over a revolver. Oswald gripped the weapon, feeling the cold metal against his palm, but quickly realized it was empty. He looked up at the young man, who was already turning to leave, but suddenly paused, a smirk curling on his lips. There was a glint of mockery in his eyes as he tossed Oswald a single bullet. "Planning on going back to Gotham?" he said, his voice dripping with venomous sarcasm. "Here, take this. You'd be better off using it on yourself than on them, because it's better than trying to get back what you'll never have again." Oswald tightened his grip on the revolver, his eyes gleaming with a predatory glint. He didn't respond, but deep down he knew the game was far from over. Oswald returns to Gotham and hardly recognizes his city. The streets are overrun with prostitutes, arms dealers, and drug peddlers. Gotham has become even darker and more dangerous. These changes came about after the mysterious Umbrella Man seized power. Batman continues his relentless efforts to bring order to the city, but his attempts make little difference. With the arrival of this new criminal leader, the situation has only worsened. Drug and arms trafficking, violence, kidnappings have all become the norm. But the Penguin hasn't returned just to wander the streets. He heads to see Max, his former head of security, to scrounge up some money. From their exchange, it becomes clear that Max betrayed his boss, selling him out to Umbrella Man for $25,000. The Penguin is outraged. He had trusted Max. But Max tries to defend himself, arguing that Oswald never gave him a chance to prove himself. To this, Penguin retorts that he knows human nature all too well. Even if Max had been given a chance, he would have squandered it just as he squandered those $25,000. Penguin demands all the money Max has left. When Max asks what Oswald plans to do, the Penguin replies that he intends to gather a crew, kill Umbrella Man, and reclaim his empire. Desperate to put an end to his former boss, Max reaches for his gun, but the Penguin is faster. In the end, Oswald walks away a few dollars richer and with a gun loaded with 3 bullets, better than just one, but still far from enough for his ambitious plans. The first person Oswald decides to recruit for his team is Lily, a girl with extraordinary looks and abilities. He finds her in her usual spot, sipping tea, and begins to outline his plans to reclaim his empire. Umbrella Man has long been plotting and has cunningly seized power, exiling the Penguin and taking away everything he built. Lily isn't eager to join, recalling how Oswald in his heyday never paid her any attention. She isn't a beauty, and as a result, she's always lingered in the shadows. The Penguin acknowledges that he hasn't treated her right, but insists that he has always respected her, and now that respect is all he can offer. Yet even that is more than most receive in this world. He shares the story of his transformation into a criminal. Oswald grew up in an affluent neighborhood of Gotham, surrounded by other wealthy families like the Waynes. But from an early age, he became a target of ridicule due to his appearance. He was teased and called the little stupid animal. On his 7th birthday, When all his tormentors suddenly turned sweet, he learned the painful truth. His mother had paid them $100 each to act that way. This lesson shaped Oswald's worldview. It doesn't matter whether people are good or bad, as long as they serve his goals. His goal was respect and admiration, and he had reached the top until Umbrella Man toppled him. Seeing a kindred spirit in him, Lily agrees to help. Next, the Penguin heads to see his former confidant, Frank, hoping to win him back to his side along with his crew. However, Frank greets him with mockery, stating that with only 3 bullets, he won't stand a chance against Umbrella Man. The Penguin retorts that he once had just 1 bullet, so this is already progress. Frank decides to teach his old boss a lesson, and his men, armed with bats and chains, charge at the Penguin. At that moment, Lily steps in. It turns out her enormous, powerful hands can easily handle the thugs. She quickly neutralizes the henchmen, although the Penguin had hoped to leave at least one of them conscious to add to his growing team. Suddenly, they notice a new character, Elliot, a relative of one of Frank's beaten goons. Elliot looks cowardly, but the Penguin sees potential in him. By calling him names, he watches as Elliot transforms into a furious berserker, which impresses Oswald, and the kid becomes part of the team. Now there are 3 of them, and they have a gun with 3 bullets. Not a bad start. The Penguin and his small group were in urgent need of cash. Fortunately, Oswald had once invested $250,000 with a criminal creditor named Johann, and now it was time to collect his debt. They headed to where Johann typically resided. They decided to give the gun with 3 bullets to Elliot. No one would expect him to be armed. In case of danger, he was to shoot at anything that moved. As expected, Johann listened to Oswald's demand for his money. However, he declared that Umbrella Man was now in charge, and if he handed over the cash to the Penguin, he would become a target himself. Moreover, Johann decided that if he killed the Penguin and his crew and presented their bodies to Umbrella Man, it would be a sign of respect to his powerful client. Then Elliot went wild. He began firing in all directions. Johann and his men were taken aback, frightened by his frenzy, and they dropped their weapons, begging for mercy. They didn't realize the bullets were already spent. In the end, Johann agreed to transfer the Penguin his $250,000 to a card. With the money in hand, the Penguin and his team left the creditor, preparing to buy weapons and hire men. Meanwhile, Umbrella Man himself paid a visit to Johann. After listening to the explanation, he learned that the Penguin was coming for his head and politely thanked the creditor for the information. Then suddenly he drew a gun and shot Johann in the head. That's Umbrella Man, cruel and unpredictable. His henchmen suggested that the Penguin's next move would be to approach Frida, as her team was known as the best marksman in the city. Umbrella Man ordered his men to find Frida and eliminate her and all her people. Oswald knew that meeting with Frida would not be easy. He remembered how he had ruled his empire and was not surprised when she greeted him coldly, if not hostilely. The Penguin offered her the chance to be his sword and shield once more. Frida categorically refused. Then Oswald proposed a generous payment for her services, but he heard another refusal. The resentment toward her old boss was too strong. The Penguin left her his phone and a card with money, confident that Frida would reconsider. After Oswald's departure, Umbrella Man's men burst into Frida's place, unleashing a ruthless massacre. Only she and a few of her closest associates survived. Realizing that acting alone was futile, Frida immediately called Oswald and requested a meeting. They met on neutral ground, but this time it was not a reunion of old enemies but of allies. Frida, cool-headed and composed, agreed to his proposal, and the Penguin seized the moment to embrace her tightly. In that embrace, there was no pretense, only genuine apologies for past mistakes and words of support for her sorrow. Thus was forged an alliance that would be sealed with the blood of their enemies. The Penguin himself called Umbrella Man and declared that he was coming for his head, advising him to prepare for death. This might have seemed like a strategic mistake. Now the enemy would be ready for an attack. But Oswald knew what he was doing. No one can be ready for the horror itself to call you and say that it is coming for you. As the Penguin and his group of 5 made their way to Umbrella Man's lair, they were stopped by Batman. Lily wanted, as usual, to solve the matter with force, but Oswald stopped her, saying he would handle it himself. He engaged Batman in conversation, reminding him that when Oswald ruled the city, the crime rate was lower than in Metropolis, where Superman himself maintained order. Oswald established the rules and ensured their enforcement, which is absent now, under Umbrella Man. Chaos and disorder reign. Batman may try to fix the situation, but that's merely dealing with the symptoms, not the root cause. "You may consider yourself Gotham's protector," said the Penguin, "but its true master is me, and I have returned to reclaim what is mine." Batman was silent for a moment before replying that the Penguin had this night to deal with Umbrella Man, after which he would come back for him. Thus it was decided. The Penguin and his group would go for Umbrella Man's head. As they approached his lair, they were met with well-armed men in ambush. Frida and her men engaged them, with the help of a sniper on the roof of a neighboring building. Next came Lily and Elliot. They engaged in hand-to-hand combat with the bodyguards. Lily swung her powerful fists, knocking opponents to the ground, while Elliot, imagining that he was being insulted, went into a berserk mode and began smashing enemies with a piece of rebar. Meanwhile, the Penguin found Umbrella Man himself. He stood calmly, stylish, elegant, impeccable, while Oswald appeared disheveled, unkempt, and worn down. The Penguin claimed his rights to the Empire, but Umbrella Man simply slapped him hard. Then he knocked Oswald to the ground and began to beat him until blood flooded the floor. When Umbrella Man grew tired and thought the Penguin was dead, he heard a raspy voice. "You think you've killed me? You don't know what it means to survive. You are merely a man, and I am an animal." Oswald lifted his head, his face a bloody mask, and lunged at his enemy. The Penguin bit down on Umbrella Man's throat, tearing out a chunk of flesh. Blood gushed from the carotid artery, and the powerful, self-assured criminal lord crawled on the floor as he died. Thus ended his reign. Gotham belonged to the Penguin once more. 5 months had passed. Oswald had regained control of the city. Now he looked like the true ruler of Gotham. He had become wiser, remembering how he had been dethroned and how, with a single bullet pistol, he had gathered his crew overnight and reclaimed his empire. Now he respected his people. Batman once again visited the roof of his club. Just like that night, they talked. Batman reminded him that he had given the Penguin one night, and now everything would return to the way it was. Penguin as a criminal, Batman as the protector of the city. "You can think you control the situation as much as you want," replied the Penguin, "but you didn't control Gotham then, and you don't control it now. I now have something I haven't had in a long time. Real friends, and our dealings will never be the same." Batman silently watched Oswald, realizing that everything had changed that night. Gotham seemed to have taken a new turn. The rules of the game, the balance of power, and the Penguin himself. Oswald was no longer the same man he once was.